All right, listen up, squad. Today, we're diving deep into some real-life Jedi skills, problem-solving, critical thinking, and making decisions that don't suck. Yeah, we're getting down and dirty with life's puzzles. We're pushing aside the fluff and the cliches, and we're getting to the heart of how to navigate the maze of life. You know that feeling when you're trying to solve a Rubik's Cube, and you're just one move away from getting all the colors to align? That's what we're aiming for here. Or maybe you found yourself in a tricky situation where you needed to make a big decision, but you couldn't quite figure out which path to take. We've all been there. But fear not, because we're about to embark on a journey of discovery where we'll unravel the mysteries of effective problem-solving, critical thinking, and decision-making. Well, hold on to your hats, because we're about to decode this whole problem-solving thing. Effective problem-solving, it's not about summoning superheroes, it's about becoming your own superhero. Step 1. Define the problem. Don't let it hide in the shadows like your missing sock. Drag it out into the light. Now, let's break it down further. When you're dealing with a problem, you're essentially dealing with a mystery, and like any good detective, you need to know what you're up against. So the first step is to define the problem. It's like putting a name to the boogeyman under your bed. Once you know what you're dealing with, it's half the battle won. So grab that magnifying glass and let's get to work. Next up in your problem-solving journey is step 2, gather the facts. This is where your inner Sherlock Holmes comes into play. You need to investigate the problem, find out its roots, its branches, its favorite breakfast cereal. Okay, maybe not the last one, but you get the idea. Gathering facts isn't just about collecting data. It's about understanding the problem from all angles. It's about asking the right questions and not settling for easy answers. You've got to dive deep, peel back the layers, and get to the heart of the matter. It's not always easy, but hey, who said being a problem-solving superhero was a walk in the park? Now, here's a tip. Don't be afraid to challenge assumptions. Just because something has always been done a certain way doesn't mean it's the best way. So flex those critical thinking muscles and question everything. Finally, once you've gathered your facts, it's time to analyze them. Look for patterns, connections, and inconsistencies. This is where your detective work really pays off. You're not just gathering facts, you're building a case. And once you've got that, you're ready to move on to the next step in your problem-solving journey. Investigate, interrogate, and get those facts straighter than your best friend's hair after a salon trip. Critical thinking, folks. It's like playing truth or dare with your brain. Let's break it down. First things first, question everything. Don't swallow everything you're fed. Use your brain, not just your stomach. Just like when you're at a buffet, you don't just pile everything onto your plate. You assess, you evaluate, you make sure that sushi roll doesn't have wasabi if you can't handle the heat. So, when you're faced with a problem or a decision, don't just accept things at face value. Be curious, be skeptical, ask why, ask how, ask what if. It's like being a toddler again, but instead of asking why the sky is blue, you're questioning your assumptions, your biases, your preconceived notions. It's about not letting your brain take the easy route. Now, once you've questioned everything, it's time for the second step, analysis. Here's where you roll up your sleeves and get down to business. Your brain becomes a detective, a scientist, a judge. You're gathering evidence, looking for patterns, weighing pros and cons. You're breaking down arguments, spotting flaws, separating fact from fiction. You're not just accepting things as they are, you're dissecting them, understanding them, seeing them from all angles. Think of it this way, you're in a reality show and you're the judge. You're scrutinizing every performance, every note, every beat. You're looking for the good, the bad, and the ugly. You're not just passively watching, you're actively engaging. You're not just consuming, you're critiquing. And just like a reality show judge, you're not afraid to call out the bad and praise the good. You're not afraid to make tough calls. You're not afraid to challenge the status quo. You're not afraid to think differently, to think critically. So, there you have it, folks. Critical thinking in a nutshell. It's not easy, it's not always fun, but it's absolutely essential, because when you question everything and analyze information, you're not just thinking, you're thinking critically. And in a world full of noise and chaos, that's a superpower. It's like being the Simon Cowell of your own thoughts. Now, making sound decisions, it's not a magic trick, it's more like a tightrope act without the safety net. Step 1, weigh your options. Don't just jump into the deep end without checking for sharks. That's right, decision-making is all about balance, about seeing all the possible paths before you, and figuring out which one has the least amount of prickly thorns or, man-eating plants. Imagine you're at a buffet, there's the steak, looking all juicy and delicious. But then there's also the sushi, fresh and tantalizing. Each has its own allure, its own set of pros and cons. The steak might be protein-packed but heavy, while the sushi is light but maybe doesn't quite hit the spot. So you weigh your options, consider your appetite and the room you need to save for dessert, and make a decision. That's what weighing options and decision-making is like, a culinary conundrum on a grander scale. Now, on to step 2, assess the risks. This is where you take a good hard look at those options you've weighed and start poking them for potential pitfalls. It's like checking the sushi for wasabi bombs or the steak for hidden fat. You need to know what you're getting into, the good and the potentially stomach-churning. Risk assessment isn't about being a downer though. It's about being prepared, about knowing that the path you're choosing might have a few bumps and being ready to navigate them. It's about understanding that every decision comes with its own set of risks and rewards and figuring out which ones you're willing to take on. But remember, risk isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's the spicy kick that makes the meal memorable. Sometimes you gotta risk it for the biscuit, but make sure it's worth it. Like diving headfirst into a plate of free tacos. Listen up, amigos. Master these skills and life becomes your playground. You'll dodge problems like a ninja, think sharper than a samurai sword, and make decisions smoother than a slick DJ. Remember the key steps we've covered today. In problem solving, define the problem and gather the facts. For critical thinking, it's all about questioning everything and analyzing with a discerning eye. When it comes to decision making, weigh your options and assess the risks. Your life is the canvas, and these skills are your paintbrush. It's time to create your masterpiece, one decision at a time. Don't be afraid to take risks, but always make sure they're calculated. And remember, every problem is just an opportunity in disguise. So embrace the journey and stay curious. Now go forth, my problem-solving, critical thinking warriors. Make decisions so epic they'll make Shakespeare jealous.